Hello, everyone. Well, today we're going to look at another one of our values and we're going to look at honesty. And today's story is quite a funny one, really. It's about a little girl called Jenny who was always telling lies. She could tell little lies, but often they were real big whoppers, as my mum used to say. Her mum, dad, friends, and teacher never knew whether to believe her or not. She's a bit like the story of the boy who cried wolf. And she told so many lies that when she was telling the truth, people didn't believe her. So this is the story of Jenny. One day, Jenny was in the kitchen drinking a glass of orange juice. Are you drinking something? Called her mum. No, said Jenny. As she tipped up the glass to finish the drink, Jenny saw an eye looking at her from the thick glass base. It's time you were taught a lesson, said the eye. Jenny was so surprised to see the eye and to hear it speak that she dropped the glass onto the floor where it smashed to pieces and she ran outside. The next day, Jenny's mum gave her some crisps to take to school. At playtime, Jenny's friend asked if she'd like to share her apple. Yes, said Jenny, because my mum didn't give me anything to bring to school today. Suddenly, Jenny had the strangest feeling in her nose, a twitching, a tickling, stretching kind of feeling. Then she sneezed, coughed, and hiccuped, and her nose grew about 10 centimeters longer. She tried very hard to take no notice of her new strange longer nose, but it was difficult to ignore. She could see it with her own eyes. At lunchtime, it was Jenny's favourite pudding, chocolate sponge and mint custard. A teacher came along and asked Jenny if she'd been given a second helping. No, said Jenny, even though she had eaten 2 second helpings. Suddenly, there was the strange feeling again, the twitching, the tickling, the stretching feeling. She sneezed, coughed, and hiccuped, and her nose grew again. This time, Jenny covered it up with her hand. During the afternoon, Jenny told lies to her teacher and to her friends. She told a lie to her mum at home time, and every time she said something untrue, her nose twitched, tickled and stretched. She sneezed, coughed and hiccuped, and her nose grew longer. By tea time, Jenny's nose was as long as a ruler, and she was miserable, sad, cross and grumpy. Her mum and dad took her to the doctor. Well, I've never seen anything like it, he said. Do you know why it's happening, Jenny? No, shouted Jenny, and her nose grew longer still. She was sent to see a doctor at the hospital. No, I've never seen anything like it, said the hospital doctor. Do you know why, Jenny? No, shouted Jenny, and her nose grew again, there, right in front of their eyes. Whispered the doctor. I think I know why. Something to do with telling lies. I don't tell lies, said Jenny, and her nose grew again. There's nothing I can do to help, said the hospital doctor. Go home and come back in a month. Jenny was taken home. It was awful. She couldn't eat or drink now. Her face ached. She couldn't go out to play or go to school. She couldn't get through the door easily. Her nose was now as long as a meter stick. That evening, Jenny tried to have a drink of orange juice. She was by herself in the kitchen. As she looked into the bottom of the glass, there it was again, the eye, looking at her from the thick, heavy glass base. Have you learned your lesson? Asked the eye. Jenny started to cry. She cried, and tears dripped along the length of her nose and fell off the end in a puddle. Yes, she said. The strange feeling came again. Her nose twitched and tickled and stretched, and then slowly, bit by bit, it began to shrink. By breakfast time the next day, Jenny's nose was normal size again. Every time that day that Jenny spoke, she sneezed, coughed, and hiccuped first. It was a reminder to tell the truth, and it worked. Jenny only told a few lies after that, and each time she did, she had the strangest feeling in her nose, and she knew she must tell the truth to make her nose shrink again. I think Jenny was actually very unhappy when she was telling lies. People usually are unhappy when they know they're not telling the truth. Okay. Although we wouldn't grow a nose like Jenny's, well, hopefully not. We do tell lies sometimes. And when you tell a lie, especially if it's getting someone else into trouble, and it should be you get a horrible feeling in the pit of your stomach. It's like a little coiled spring, and it just keeps unwinding, and it sits there in your tummy and it doesn't go away. And it's difficult sometimes to own up to doing something wrong, or to own up if you've told lies, to say, actually, I haven't been telling the truth. But you know what? It takes a strong person to do that. And it's always the right thing to do. Okay. Always the right thing. We should never get anyone else into trouble by telling lies. It's very important. Honesty is very, very important. Okay. So let's all try our best to be honest from now on. Okay. I don't want to see anyone coming to my room with a nose like Jenny's. Okay. Thank you for listening, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.